Hi, I'm Sue Brazendale, Health and Social Care Network Coordinator for VOSCA, and I was standing in for Peter Walker, our advocate, on the Health and Wellbeing Board meeting on Thursday the 31st of July, so this is our short video report of the meeting. Before I start, I'll just show you this massive agenda, which is hundreds and hundreds of pages long, that goes with the meeting. So it's actually gold. There's a fantastic amount of information in here and it's all publicly available. So before we start on the meeting, I'd urge anybody to go to the Council's website, look at the Health and Wellbeing Board, come along to the meetings, they're open to the public. You'll find out lots of things that are going on. Anyway, I'll be referring to these notes and we'll just romp in and have a quick overview of what was on the agenda. The first agenda item was one called Ways of Working, and the Health and Wellbeing Board's had a real change lately. We've seen the departure of Barbara Jank, who was our chair for some time and did a sterling job, and her position has now been placed by Mayor George Ferguson and Dr. Martin Jones, who's the chair of the Bristol Clinical Commissioning Group. So that's a really significant change, bringing the really senior people onto the board to have a say in it. The other thing that's gone with that big decision is that the council have also said that the board can operate like a cabinet meeting and have given it power to make decisions that will be either saving or expenditure of up to £500,000. So that really gives the board some teeth, and I think that's been one of the problems we've had of a board that hasn't had any power. That's now significantly changed. There's been a few other changes to the board membership. We're saying farewell to Rachel Robinson of the Care Forum and Keith Sinclair of the Carer Support Centre. Their places have been replaced by two seats that are for Health Watch, and Health Watch have two places. One of those is going to be particularly around carers. So after we had a quick look at that way of working, the next agenda item was Nick Smith on the profile of Bristol population and the current update. You'll find a really useful document about this below this video link. Lots of headline news. Two main issues that came out of that for me. One is we seem to have a difference in how many people there are in Bristol. The council think it's 437,500 and our NHS colleagues think it's 460,000. So we're quite a few adrift there, and that's going to be the subject of some investigation over the coming months. It's obviously important we get the right figure for Bristol before we can start planning services. The other issue on that I picked out was that there is quite a growth in long-term unemployment. This came right at the end of the paper, and we have asked Nick to provide more details because VOSCA is working and linking into the local enterprise partnership, and it looks like Bristol has got far worse percentage of people long-term unemployed than many other parts of the country. So I think this is something that should be teased out and looked at a bit further. But do look at Nick's profile, it's a really, really useful document. Next agenda item was the Better Care Fund, which is a very large government programme shifting money from the NHS into the local authority. A huge amount of detail around that. Again, you'll find a really big detailed paper underneath this video report all about the Better Care Fund, so I can't really cover that huge topic in this short report. Snapshots on that one is that there's a very large performance element, and the local authority and the NHS will have to make significant improvements on the number of people being admitted to hospital to meet government targets, 3.5%, and that's actually quite steep. For VOSCA and the voluntary sector, we will be meeting with the new director of the programme board for the Better Care Fund when he or she is in place, to see how the voluntary sector can have a say and help shape this important agenda about keeping people out of hospital. We'll have some information on our website about that. Another important item was some consultation about homelessness, particularly about supported accommodation for women, and there's been some concern within the sector about whether the council in its plans for looking at supported accommodation and homelessness is actually planning to reduce the number of spaces available to women in women-only hostels. Nick Hooper was at the meeting, and he gave an assurance about this, that there would be no reduction in places. he's made a very clear statement that's on page 105 of the agenda papers, saying that there is no loss of provision for women and women's spaces under these consultations. So any of you who are concerned about this should be reassured by these statements. If you think they're incorrect, please get in touch with VOSCA and we'll take that further. Another big agenda item was called the Mental Health Concordance, and that's a big strategic document that's looking about how everyone in the city can help address the inequality about how emergency mental health crises are dealt with to physical health crises are dealt with. And any of you who work in the mental health arena will know that there is huge inequalities about how those services are given out to people. Massive piece of work. Martin Jones at the CCG introduced this and was quite evangelical about it. He's got a real passion about this, which is great to see. And there are some really exciting bits of work going on. The board noted a few things about that they were concerned with. One is that there's some new custody suites opening up, particularly for people with mental health crisis, so they don't end up going into custody, but they're rather out of Bristol, and there was a concern that there should be some in central Bristol provision. And also there was a feeling that our local hospitals need to get more involved in the conversation about how people are treated with the A&E who have a mental health crisis. So that's quite good to see, and again, do have a look at the paper for Work and Mental Health because it's really detailed and there is some really good stuff going on. Finally, one for those who are so inclined, Bristol NHS, in the form of the Clinical Commissioning Group, shared with the board a lengthy paper about what's called their quality premium. From central government, the local Clinical Commissioning Group and the GPs get money, but they also get an extra premium regarding performance-related activities. And the performance indicators for our local GPs are contained in that paper, so if you're that way inclined, do have a look. And they do fit very well with the Better Care Fund work. Most of it is around reducing admissions into hospitals. So that's quite a good bit of work going on there. The next board meeting is on the 4th of September. Peter Walker will be attending. If you have anything that you want to raise at the board, look at the agenda before the meeting, get in touch with myself and Peter, and do have a look at some of the documents that are given below this video. Thanks very much.